I maintain that truth is a pathless land and cannot be approached by any path whatsoever, by any religion, by any sect. Truth being limitless, unconditioned, unapproachable by any path whatsoever, cannot be organized, nor should any organization be formed to lead or coerce people along any particular path. First, understanding that, then you will see how impossible it is to organize a belief being purely an individual matter. You cannot, and therefore must not organize it. If you do, it becomes crystallized, dead. It becomes a creed, a sect, a religion to be imposed on others. That is what everyone throughout the world is attempting to do. Truth is narrowed down and made a plaything for those who are weak, for those who are only momentarily discontented. Truth cannot be brought down. Rather, the individual must make the effort to ascend to it. You cannot bring the mountain top to the valley. If you would attain to the mountain top, you must pass through the valley, climb the steeps, unafraid of the dangerous precipices. Organizations cannot make you free or develop the inner man. No man from outside can make you free, nor can organized worship, nor the immolation of yourself for a cause make you free. Therefore, I am not concerning myself with the founding of religions or new sects or the establishment of new theories or new philosophies. I am concerning myself with the only one essential thing, the true freedom of man. I would help him to break away from all limitations, to free himself from all fears, from the fear of religion, from the fear of salvation, from the fear of spirituality, from the fear of love, from the fear of death, from the fear of life itself. My desire is that men should be unconditionally free, for I maintain that the only true spirituality is the incorruptibility of the self which is eternal. It is the harmony between reason and love. That is the highest reality. That is life itself. True perfection, the harmony of the self, has no law. This must not be translated as to mean chaos. It is above all law and above all chaos, because it is the seed of everything, that from which all transformation arises and on which all things depend. If you desire the harmony of the self, in which is truth, and that poise of the self in which is true creation, you must care for that self which abides in each and be concerned only with that self. In creating that eternal poise lies the unfoldment of truth. Without understanding, the struggle between mind and emotion creates fear. If you would establish that harmony, then worship, prayers, mediators, the seeking of comfort are unnecessary. You must come to it naturally, as the flower blooms of a clear morning. The mind and the heart are of the same substance, and you must look to the purification of that substance and make that substance, which is thought, which is love, incorruptible. The moment there is in thought separation created by the mind, there is limitation and hence sorrow. The moment there is in love the creation of personal likes and dislikes, there is limitation and hence sorrow. To make the mind and the heart of man free from limitation, free from corruption, is happiness, liberation, and truth.
We have lived on this earth for many, many millennia. And during those periods of long time, mankind has suffered pleasure, loneliness, despair, uncertainty, confusion, multiple choices, therefore multiple complexities. And there have been wars, not only physical, bloody wars, but also psychological wars. And mankind has asked, if there can be peace on earth, pacem in terris, the Latin for peace on earth. And apparently, this has not been possible. Wars seems to be the common lot of mankind. And also, when observe all over the world, piling of armaments, the tiny little nation or tribe to the highly sophisticated, affluent society like yours. And how can we have peace on earth? Is that at all possible? And those who have concerned have said there is no peace on earth, only in heaven. And all this is repeated in different ways, both in the East, in India, and here. And there are these religions, Christianity, Islamic world, the fundamentalists, and the Hinduism and Buddhism, and the various sects within the organized Christianity, and also in India and Asia, they believe in the Buddha. In Buddhism, there is no God. In Hinduism, somebody calculated there are about 300,000 gods. That's rather fun. You can choose whichever god you like. And in Christianity and Islam, there is only one God, based on two books, the Bible and the Quran. So religions have divided man as nationalism, which is a form of glorified tribalism, have divided man. Nationalism, patriotism, religious order, the fundamentalists, in all the, both in India, here and Europe, going back, reviving the religious religion. I want a division between nationalities, religion, economic, and so on. And man has always been in conflict, as everyone in this world goes through all kinds of misery, all kinds of sorrow, pain, desperate loneliness. And we want to escape from all this. But we are going to look together, observe this extraordinary phenomena. What man has made after these thousands of years still remains a barbarian, cruel, vulgar, full of anxiety and hatred. And violence is increasing in the world. So one asks, can there be peace on this earth? Because without peace, inwardly, psychologically first, the brain cannot flower. Human beings cannot live completely, holistically. So, why are we, after this long evolution, during that period, we have gathered immense experience, knowledge, great deal of information. Why are we, as human beings, are perpetually in conflict? That is the real question. Because when there is no conflict, there is naturally peace. He's done everything on earth possible to run away from the actuality of daily living. With all its complexities. Why do we have conflict in relationship between man and woman? Sexual, sensory, division. And in this peculiar relationship, man is pursuing his own ambition, his own greed, his own desires, his own fulfillment, and the woman too is doing the same. I don't know if you have noticed all this for yourself. So there are two ambitious, being driven by desire and so on, two parallel lines, never meeting except perhaps sexually. So how can there be a relationship between two people when each one is pursuing his own desires, ambitions, greed? In this relationship, because there is this division, there is no love. Please hold to your seats. That word love is spoiled, spat upon, degraded, which has become merely sensuous, pleasurable. Love is not pleasure. Love is not something put together by thought. It's not something dependent on sensation. We'll talk about that a little later. So how can there be right true relationship between two people when each one considers his own importance? Self-interest is the beginning of corruption, destruction. Whether it be in a politician, or the religious man, and so on. Self-interest dominates the world. And therefore, there is conflict. Where there is duality, separation, as the Greek and the Muslim, as the Jew and the Arab, as the Christian who believes in some savior, and a Hindu who doesn't believe in all this. There is this division, national division, religious division, individual divisions. Where there is division, there must be conflict. That's a law. So we live our daily life in a little circumscribed self, the limited self. Not that the higher self, the limited. Self is always limited. And that's the cause of conflict. That's the central core of our struggle, pain, anxiety, and all the rest of it. If one becomes aware of it, as most people must, naturally, not because you are told to, or because you read some philosophical book or psychology, but it's an actual fact. Each one is concerned with himself. He lives in a separate world, all to himself. And therefore, there is division between you and another, between you and your religion, between you and your God, between you and your ideologies. So is it possible to understand, not intellectually but deeply, that you are the rest of mankind? Whatever you do, good or bad, affects the rest of mankind. Because you are the mankind. Your consciousness is not yours. Your consciousness is its content. Consciousness is made up of its content. Without the content, there is no consciousness. Your consciousness, like the rest of humanity, is made up of beliefs, fears, faith, gods, personal ambitions, and all the rest of fears and all that. Your whole consciousness is made up of all this, put together by thought. We have lost the art of investigation, discussion, not taking sides, but looking at it. It's a very complex problem, maybe not the right occasion to go into this. We also should inquire why from childhood we are hurt, psychologically wounded. Most of us psychologically are wounded. And from that wound, either one is conscious of it or not, many of our problems arise. The wound as a child by a scolding, by saying something ugly, brutal, violent, we are wounded. When you say we are wounded, who is it that's wounded? Is it the image that you have built about yourself that's wounded? The psyche. Please, the speaker has not read any of the psychological books or philosophy or religious books. He's just investigating with you. The psyche, which is the me, and the me is the image I have built about myself. There is nothing spiritual about it. That's another ugly word, spiritual. That image gets hurt. And we carry that image right through our life. If one image is not pleasant, we put together another image, which is pleasant, encouraging, worthwhile, significant, giving intellectual meaning to our life. This is the wound is brought about in the image that one has built about oneself. Is it possible to live on this earth not having a single image about anybody, including God, if there is such an entity? No image about your wife and your children and your husband and so on. Not to have a single image. Then it's possible never to be hurt. What's the relationship of fear to time, to thought? Fear, one may be frightened of tomorrow or many tomorrows. Fear of death, the ultimate fear. Fear of what has happened before in the past. Fear of what is actually going on now. Is fear brought about by time? Someone has done something in the past, hurt you, and the past is time. The future is time. The present is the time, is time. So we are asking, is time a central factor of fear? Fear has many, many branches, many leaves. But it's no good trimming the branches. We're asking, what's the root of fear? Not the multiple forms of fear, because fear is fear. Out of fear you invented gods, saviors. If you have absolutely no fear psychologically, then there is tremendous relief, great sense of freedom. You have dropped all the burdens of life. So we must inquire very seriously, closely, hesitantly into this question. Is time a factor? Obviously. I have a good job now, I may lose it tomorrow. I'm frightened. And I may be married, and I'm frightened. When there's fear, there's jealousy, anxiety, hatred, violence. So, time is a factor of fear. Please listen to the end of it. Don't say, how am I to stop time? That's not the problem. That's a rather absurd question to ask. Time is a factor, and thought is a factor. Thinking about what has happened, what might happen. Thinking. Is thinking a factor in fear? Is thinking brought about fear? As one sees, time has brought fear. Right? Time. Not only time by the clock, but psychological time. The inward time. I am going to be. I am not good, but I will be. I will get rid of my violence, which is again the future. Or I have been violent, but I won't be. All that implies time. We ought to inquire, what is time? Are you prepared for all this? Do you want to go into all this? Really? I'm rather surprised. Because you've all been instructed, you've all been informed. You've been all told what to do by the psychologists, by the priests, by your leaders. Always seeking help and finding new ways of being helped. So one has become a slave to others. We are never free to inquire, to stand psychologically completely by oneself. So we're going now to inquire into time. What is time? Apart from the clock, apart from the sunrise and the sunset, the beauty of a sunrise, the beauty of a sunset, apart from the light and the dark, what is time? Please, if one really understands this, the nature of time inwardly, you will find for yourself an extraordinary sense of having no time at all. We'll come to that. Time is the past, right? Time is the future, and time is the present. The whole cycle is time. The past, your background, what you have thought, what you have lived with, your experiences, your conditioning as Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, all the rest of it. Or you put aside all that nonsense and say, I'm going to live this way, which is the past. So the past is the present, right? Without the past, you won't be here. Your background, your conditioning, your brain being programmed as Christian, Hindu, Buddhist, and all the rest of it. We've been programmed for 2,000 years. And the Hindus for 3,000 to 5,000 years. Like a computer. They repeat. So the past is the present. What you are now is the result of the past. And tomorrow, or 1,000 tomorrows, is the future. So the future is what you are now. Right? Vous avez compris? Sorry, you have understood? I mustn't ask you that, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. So the future is now. In the now, all time is contained. This is a fact too, actuality, not a theory. What you are is the result of the past. And what you will be tomorrow is what you are now. If I am violent now, tomorrow I'll be violent. So tomorrow is in the now, in the present. Unless I radically, fundamentally bring about a mutation. Otherwise I'll be what I have been. That is, we had a long evolution. Evolving. And we have evolved to what we are now. And if you carry on that game, you will be violent, you will be barbarous next day. So, as all time is contained in the now, which is a fact, actuality, can there be total mutation now? In all our behavior, in our way of living, thinking, feeling. Not being an American, Hindu, Buddhist, none of that. Because if you don't radically, psychologically bring about a mutation, then you will be exactly what you have been in the past. So is it possible to bring about this psychological mutation at all? You know, when you have been going north all your life, following a particular direction, or not having a direction, just wobbling all over the place, as most people do, if you're going north, and somebody comes along and tells you most seriously, and you listen to him seriously, not only hear with the hearing of the ear, but also hearing deeply, when you hear, say, the way you are pursuing north leads you nowhere. There is nothing at the end of it. But go east or west or south, and you listen and you say, I will do it. When the moment you say you have taken a new turn, there is a mutation. And the speaker is making it very simple, but it's a very complex problem, which is to realize deeply that when it's been going on this way for centuries upon centuries, and it has not changed at all. We are still violent, brutal, and all the rest of it. if one really actually perceives that, not intellectually or verbally, but deeply, then you turn in another direction. At that second, there is a mutation in the very brain cells themselves. Because the speaker has discussed this matter with some neurologists. Of course, they don't agree completely, but they go partially your way. It's always a game, you understand? We treat life as a game, partially right and partially wrong, partially correct, and you may be right and you may be wrong. But we never ask ourselves, what is the way of living, the art of living, which is the greatest art, greater than any art in the world, the art of living. We said time is important, because we live by time. But we don't live time as a whole, which is the present. In the present, all time is contained, the future and the past. If I'm violent today, I'll be violent tomorrow. And can I end that violence today completely, not partially? It can. We'll go into it. And also, is fear brought about by thought? Of course it is. Don't accept the speaker's word for it. Look at it. I am this, I'm frightened of tomorrow. What might happen? I'm secure today, and there might be war, there might be this, there might be catastrophe. I'm frightened. So, time and thought are the roots of fear, root of fear. So what is thinking? You understand my question? If time and thought are the root of fear, which they are actuality, what is thinking? Why do we live, act, do everything on the basis of thought? The marvelous cathedrals of Europe, the beauty, the structure, the architecture, which has been put together by thought. All religions and their paraphernalia, their dress, all the medieval roads are put together by thought. All the rituals are connived, arrayed by thought. And in our relationship with each other, man, woman, the relationship is based on thought. When you drive a car, it's based on thought. Recognition, all that is thought. So one has to inquire, if you're not too tired, and we'll stop at the end of this. What is thinking? Probably nobody has asked this question. Very few people do. We've been asking this question for 60 years. What is thought? Because if we can find out what is the origin, the beginning, why thought has become so extraordinarily important in our life, there may be, in that very inquiry, a mutation taking place. So we're asking, what is thought? What is thinking? Don't wait for me to answer it. Look at it. Observe it. Thinking is the word. Word is important. The sound of the word. The quality of the word. The depth, the beauty of a word. Especially the sound. I won't go into the question of sound and silence. We'll talk about it perhaps tomorrow. Thinking is part of memory, isn't it? Investigate it with the speaker, please. Don't sit there comfortably or uncomfortably. Thinking is part of memory, isn't it? If you had no memory at all, would you be able to think? You wouldn't. Our brain is the instrument of memory. Memory of things that have happened, experience and so on. The whole background of memory. The memory arises from knowledge, from experience, right? So, experience, knowledge, memory, and the response of memory is thought. This whole process of experiencing, recollecting, holding, which becomes our knowledge. Experience is always limited, naturally. Because it's a complicated question, because, oh gosh, everything is complicated. Is experience different from the experiencer? Give your brains to me, find out. If there is no experiencer, is there an experience? Of course not. So, the experience and the experiencer are the same. Like the observer and the observed. The thinker is not separate from his thoughts. The thinker is the thought. So, experience is limited, as you can observe in the scientific world or in any other field. They are adding more and more and more every day to their knowledge through experience, through experiment on animals and all that horror that's going on. And that knowledge is limited because they're adding to it. So, memory is limited. And from that memory, thought is limited. So, thought, being limited, must invariably bring about conflict. Just see the pattern of it. Not accept what the speaker is saying, that's absurd. He's not an authority. He's not a guru, thank God. But if you can observe this fact together, that thought and time are the root of fear. Time and thought are the same. They are not two separate movements. When you see this fact, this actuality, that time and thought are the root of fear. Time, thought. Just to observe it in yourself. Not move away from the reality of it, from the truth of it. That fear is caused by this, time and thought. To hold it, to remain with it, not run away from it, not rationalize it is so. And then it's like holding a precious jewel in your hand. See all the beauty of that jewel. Then you will see for yourself that fear psychologically completely ends. And when there is no fear, you are free. And when there is that total freedom, you don't have God's rituals, you are a free man. We'll continue tomorrow if you don't mind. I don't know why you clap. Perhaps you are clapping for yourself. You are not encouraging the speaker or discouraging him. He doesn't want a thing from you. When you yourself become both the teacher and the disciple being the man who is learning, not accumulating knowledge, then you are extraordinary human being.